Welcome to HTM on the Line, the show that is for HTM by HTM. I'm Bryant Hawkins Sr. Today's podcast theme is entitled, How to Create Impact as a Female Leader in HTM. Ladies in the HTM industry, have you ever struggled to make your voice heard? Have you felt like you have to work harder to prove you deserve your seat at the table? Or encountered either unconcealed or subtle form of discrimination? These are the most common challenges faced by women working in male-dominated industries. It is no wonder many women put their dream careers aside to follow a different path. I have two guests today who overcame the challenges mentioned and many more. Both ladies took different paths to their positions of leadership in healthcare technology management. Now it's time to welcome our special guests. We have Martine Crescent and Angela Bennett. Angela, can you start off first and tell us about your background?
Absolutely, I'd love to, and thanks for having me. I actually started out in HTM as a 68 Alpha in the military, United States Army, about 8 years ago. I did my military training through the BMET program in San Antonio, Texas, at Fort Sam. From there, I actually took a BMET 1 position up in Michigan at a hospital in Kalamazoo, and kind of just had a really inspiring leader who challenged me and really gave me the opportunities to really grow in my career. So I went from BMET 1 to BMET 2, and then BMET 2 to lead technician. And I was about to be deployed for the military, and I found out that I was pregnant. And at that time that I called my boss, he informed me that I would be taking his position, which was manager. So I had a lot to learn in a very fast-paced, but I honestly learned better in that kind of environment. And here I am. I've been a HTM leader for 5 years now. So it's been a real blessing and a real challenge.
Martine, can you please share with us about your background?
Hi, thank you for having me. I started off as a biomed student, have an associate's degree. Right after graduating, I had my internship at a particular hospital and became a BMET 1, 2, and 3. And when I couldn't go any higher, I went to school and got a degree in computer networking and a certificate in project management, and got into the project management field and software development for healthcare. And from there, I went to the hospital that I presently work now, Penn Medicine. And I have an MBA with a core information security, and I am halfway through my PhD in strategy and innovation. And my title at Penn is Senior Clinical Engineering Manager.
I noticed you both gave your background and up to where you are today. Well, let me ask you this question, and Angie, I'll ask you first. How many people are you responsible for, or who report to you?
I am responsible for 23 people. I am responsible for all of HTM or clinical engineering. They call my team clinical engineers. So I have 13 biomed technicians. I have 1 lab technician, and I have 5 imaging technicians. I also have a clinical engineering manager who reports to me, as well as an administrative personnel.
Same question for you, Martine.
Mine's a little bit different. We have a combination of 23 technicians, 3 coordinators, a senior manager, asset manager, and a regular manager. And we just got a new manager, so we just split the teams. So I think I have about 8 right now, but I used to have more. We all work together, and We don't do radiology, but we do everything else. So we do have a lab. We have EP-CAF lab. We have peri-op, ED, and regular nursing.
Okay.
So it's a combination of everything.
Okay, Grass. Sorry about that. I mean to cut you off there.
All right.
Question is for you, Martine. What factors you think impact a woman's ability to lead others, in your opinion?
Ooh. My opinion is compassion. You got to have compassion, especially when something's down. You got a patient on the table, anesthesiologist is calling you. You got to go up there. You got to get it done. You got to be in their place because you have a patient. It's all about safety first. You got to think about the anesthesiologist. You got to think about the patient. You got to think about the whole workflow. So compassion is one. Multitasking is another. You can't work on a detailed schedule. It's always, you have to be flexible. A lot of people need to understand that. And the other thing is our job is not a 9-to-5 job. It's almost like a 24/7. So we don't have a set time where we clock out and then forget about everything. So you always got to be ready to go.
Yes, yes. Now, Angie, this question's for you. And the reason I'm posing this question to you because you've been in this field for 5 years. And in that 5 years, you are in a position of leadership. Now, at any point in time, do you think that your colleagues, being you in a leadership position, treat you differently, you would say?
Yes and no, both in a good way and in a bad way. For the most part, my colleagues have been very supportive. Being a female and then being a young female in this career field is a bit of a challenge, especially because there's not very many of us. But they have been very supportive, both male and female. I know that the real challenge came when I made the transition from being a biomed, to stepping into a more leadership management role. A lot of the people that I ended up leading were my peers at some point. So, they supported me and they had patience as I was learning to do my job, as well as them learning, how my management style was and just having that confidence and support from them really helped that transition.
Martine, you mentioned how you was once BMed 1, BMed 2, BMed 3, then you went back to school. And also, you mentioned that, your clock never cuts off. So how do you handle, because you're also a mother of two. So explain to us how you were able to shuffle careers as a leader in the HTM field and also a mother.
So first, I have a strong family support system. So without them, I don't think I'll be able to handle anything. We do work around the schedule, and it has to be a tight schedule. I think the kids are used to it now, but there are times where we have projects where I might have to spend the night at the hospital. You got to explain to your loved ones that this is not every day. This is something that is getting ready to go live. If I go home, something might happen. So I think they understand. In the beginning, they didn't. So you have to explain to them what you do for a living, why you do it, how it impacts them. And then when you have your free time, you have to dedicate that time to them. It's all about them. And then I have to carve a little bit of time for school. So I think explaining everything, having a schedule, and keeping that schedule, unless it's some type of emergency, that's how I was able to accomplish the things I was able to do.
Very, very, very good. Same question to you, Angie. How are you able to shuffle family life with your rigorous work schedule?
That is something that I continue to learn to this day. But honestly, it's been harder in the beginning because as soon as I found out I was going to be a mom, I was also going to be a manager. So starting both of them at the same time from the ground up kind of helped me navigate and figure out, work-life balance. And in the beginning, it took a lot from me, and it took a lot of time, and it took a lot of effort. And, I just didn't know how to say no to some things. But, going as far as I have in such a short amount of time, I've learned very quickly that sometimes, if your plate is very full, you still have to have that time for your family, and you still have to have time for yourself. So having that balance and creating that balance and learning when to, shut it off or say no or delegate. Delegation was very hard for me. So in order to be able to delegate things and be able to make time for myself, that was something that I had to do, was just lean on my colleagues.
Martine, I'm gonna ask you this question because Angie kind of covered how she became a leader. So share with us who inspired you to be a leader and why.
I think the department heads at the first hospital that I was working at, they always asked for me. They valued my opinion. But I used to be nervous because I was scared because I was dealing with surgeons and anesthesiologists. So the manager that I had at that time sent me to Toastmasters because one thing they used to say was like, she knows what she's doing, but she sounds like she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I had to take Toastmasters. And from there, I got more confident. I was able to speak up at certain meetings, give my opinion, back it up with facts. And from there, it just took off.
Great. Now, this question can go for the both of you. Do you have a mentor in your life? Is it a female? Is it a male? Angie, you can answer that first.
Have worked with Danielle McCreary, who is the Amy vice president. So I look up to her as a mentor just because I've learned a whole lot about a field. I've been able to help. I'm on committees with Amy. So it's been very rewarding to be able to learn from her, and just kind of see how much grace she has when people are asking her questions that might be a little difficult. So she carries herself well, and that's something that I admire in my mentors and my leaders. And then my other mentor was my previous manager, who actually challenged me and gave me those opportunities. She was very patient, very kind, very understanding, but she also, challenged me and, gave me things to think about outside the box. And what would you do if you did this? So I was able to learn a lot from her, and just her leadership was really inspiring to kind of match. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to match or exceed what she has been able to do for me, for others.
What would you tell a young female? Maybe if you was at one of the Amy Exchange conferences or MD Expo and you met a young female that new into the HTM industry, how would you encourage her to seek out a mentor, being this in a male-driven field that we have here?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give the next generation of female leaders is, don't be afraid to lead. Don't be afraid to take charge. Don't be afraid to be told no. I mean, there have been several times that I've been told no, but for every one no I've heard, I've gotten a yes. So it's something that, a lot of people get defeated on when they hear the word no. But to me, that just kind of motivates me to do more and be better. So, don't be afraid to be competitive. This career field is a competitive one because it is such a small field. And as sad as it is, everybody knows everybody. At some point you run into somebody and, such as an Amy Exchange or an ICE or an MD Expo, you're running into people you haven't seen in years that might be on the other side of the state. So, don't be afraid to be competitive. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And when you do, own them. There's nothing more respectable than if you make a mistake, just own it and move on. Don't try to point the finger or, put it off on somebody else. Just take that, and just take it and move on. Not everyone can keep business and pleasure separate. So, try not to, and it's hard for, females, because we like to be nice to everybody and we like to be friends with everybody. And it's sometimes it can be difficult to not be friends with your team or your technicians. And, they say they want to go out and have dinner and you feel left out, but you have to remember that, should you show that side of yourself, they might not be able to keep that separate from, taking instruction from you during business hours. So that's kind of like the biggest piece of advice that I would give a female. Some people will take your cheery disposition and personality, and they might mistake it as weakness until they figure out, like, okay, she's a great person, she's fun to be around, but when it's time to get down to business, like, you're there to get down to business. You're not there to be friends and play. You're there to roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Yes. Martine, you want to chime in on that question also?
Sure. So I would say network. Go to the expos, go to other schools and find out what other clubs that they have in the area that they can join to learn more information. I volunteer at Protect Girls. I go to schools and I talk about biomed, trying to get the young kids in. I think the next phase that we need to do is go to high school so more people are aware of the biomed field. But go on LinkedIn. I answer almost every email if anybody needs a mentor. I do give them pointers. I do tell them, certain things that don't go well. Every day is not cheery. So there's good points and bad points. Just be honest. Not everybody knows everything. And then the other thing is I try to tell people, find a niche in HTM and biomed. It's very broad. So find something that you like. If you want to go into biomed, find a niche in it so you can excel in it.
Now, we know we're dealing with a lot of inclusion in the workplace today. What strategies can work well to promote inclusion in the workplace, you think, for females in particular?
I think some good tips for inclusion in the workplace, teamwork, promoting that teamwork, making sure to send the same message across all staff, not just, a certain few. Reaching out to see, how those associates, that you might not talk to every day or you might not see. I know my team spans over 4 different hospitals, so it's very hard for me to get to all of them. I do see my main base hospital biomeds or teams a lot more than I do my offsite teams, but I still reach out to those offsite teams, just as often as I'm reaching out to my home base team. So it's you got to balance that and make sure that everybody is getting the same message and getting the same, information, because you don't want it to appear like you're excluding anybody.
Martine, your thoughts?
Same as Angie, but I like to educate everyone. When we have the whole team together, I try to get someone to solve something and write up a SOP for the team. I like to share the wealth. What is the other thing? I like to shift perspectives on certain things. I like challenging stereotypes. Anything that I can do to do inclusion for the team, I'm willing to try.
I'm going to ask you this question. I want both of you to share your thoughts. I'm a young female BMed 1, and I work in a shop with about 12 other guys. I'm asking as this BMed 1 female. Angie, I'm going to ask you first. How can we stop gender bias?
I've seen females play that role differently. I've seen where the female, uses her female feminism to get the males to, help her, do things for her. But I've also seen, strong females who, won't allow them to help, or they'll ask, hey, can I help you? And she's like, no, I have it. So honestly, I mean, females kind of just need to get out of their own way in their mentality sometimes. And, males are more open now to sharing the space if we'll allow them to. We've come into this career field, and we're, it's a male dominated, but at the same time, we're making our marks, we're making our moves. More and more females are coming into this field, and we just have to, go into it as a young BMET one, not thinking that because I'm female, I should get treated differently, or that I will be treated differently. You have to go in there thinking that you're going to be treated the same just as your male peers. You're going to be treated the same if you're young as your more seasoned peers, and vice versa. So I really feel like, just trusting that going into an atmosphere or a shop that could be potentially all male, that you're thinking that you're part of a team, not just I'm just a female on this team.
So, Martine, your thoughts on that gender bias?
So I actually seen a shift, like Angie says. The new level ones that's coming in, they kind of want to do everything, and they want to prove that they can do stuff. So sometimes I have to, when I have my one-on-one with them, to let them know you're not a superwoman. It's okay not to know everything. You're a level one. I don't expect you to learn everything. You're doing fine. You're progressing fine. Just relax, because they think like they have something they have to prove. So I do see there's a shift where they're coming in ready to go versus I'm a female. Can you help me with this? And that's gone. Well, so far.
What's the most dangerous behavior or trait that you have seen derailed females in the HTM industry?
When they don't get promoted, or they have an issue with someone or with management, so they take it against the whole organization. So I always tell people, you're going to find bias and racism everywhere. You're not going to leave this position to go to another hospital and think everything's going to be fine. So I try to tell them, if you experienced it, if you can find somebody you can talk to that you can trust, let them know. If not, talk to your family members, but try to shine somewhere else. If you can't shine with this one particular department and you're doing good with department heads, try to excel in that area. And that's where I always try to tell people, find a niche so you can excel in, and not take it against the whole organization, because you're going to find it no matter where you go. And you only have one name, so why destroy it with negative impact?
That's true, because biomed, it's a very small world. Everybody knows everybody. Yeah. Angie, your thoughts on that?
I feel that the most dangerous behavior that, as a female leader, that I've seen, I know we tend to, as females, be emotional, but it's a toxic trait to have, in healthcare and in leadership. Like, you can't lead with your emotions. You have to make sure that your composure is intact, and make sure that when you're making decisions that's going to affect your entire team, it can't be full of just emotion. You can have emotion in there, and empathy and compassion, but at the same time, you work in healthcare. Healthcare is a very, serious industry to be in. You're life-saving, you're saving lives, you're part of a team that saves lives. So you can't really lead with the emotion. You can have the emotion, but if you keep it locked down and just make decisions based on facts and truths, and just be able to go based off of that, and have a little bit of emotion in there to show that you aren't a robot. But I think that's one of the dangerous behaviors is females. They get emotional because they get stressed out, or somebody says something they don't like, or somebody doesn't like them and they find out, or, they hear somebody say, well, she's not a good leader, or she's not a good person. That kind of carries into, a professional decision-making process if it comes down to that. So definitely making sure that you keep your emotions in check and be level-headed and make sure that when it's decision-making time, especially if it affects somebody else, that you're thinking with, with a right mind versus just emotion.
Martine, you can answer us first. Describe your leadership style and how you lead others. And would you say it's different from your male counterparts?
Oh yeah. I like to lead by example. I do have an open door policy. I like to know every single person that I lead. So I take the information I have on this person, and that's how I delegate the work. I find what their strong point is, and I make that shine. And whatever that's weak, I try to make it a little bit stronger. But I don't depend on that weakness because, it's healthcare. So we got to always try to be perfect or prevent any negative impact on that weakness. So that's how I lead, by example, inclusion, always strategizing because, if somebody has an issue, they're out. I try to have a primary and a secondary. I try to spread all the teachings around. So if someone's out, we're not in a hole. And everybody covers for each other. It's like a team.
All right, awesome. Angie, what is your leadership style if you had to put it into some words for us?
I am one of those leaders that, like Martine said, lead by example. If I'm not willing to do what my team does, then why would I expect them to do it? So I'm not afraid or above jumping in and rolling up my sleeves and helping ship out something or helping, troubleshoot or help install a new part. Like I'm not just one of those leaders that sits behind a desk and, gives instructions and directions. I'm one that I like to model the type of attitude and behavior of the people that I want on my team. And that's kind of my style. I'm not a micromanager at all. I kind of want them to make decisions because it's their career too. I want them to be able to speak up and have a voice of what they want and where they see themselves going. And if they have a problem, I want them to be able to be honest and open with me. So I definitely, if we have a problem, I pull them aside. I don't point it out in front of the group. I'm very intentional with that kind of stuff because I don't want somebody to feel like I'm embarrassing them or humiliating them in any way.
Being a female leader, that has to be almost a two-edged sword. Because if you're being tough or you talking to one of your technicians and he may think you just cut them down, and now he's figuring a female that's cutting me down. So you got to deal with that. And then if you don't be firm enough, they're going to say you're being weak. So I guess you have to find a medium, and that can be challenging in your position. Now, let me ask you this question. At this moment, let's just imagine both of you at career day at a high school, and you're talking to a room full of young ladies. What would you talk to these young ladies about HTM? I'll let you go first, Martine.
All right. So when I go to a class and I talk to students and they want to know about HTM, I let them know about the medical devices and the different options in repairing the devices. There's management, there's cybersecurity right now, there's integrations, all sorts of different avenues that makes HTM. And they get excited about it. Some of them want to keep in contact. Some of them want to come over and visit and shadow. So I try to make it exciting to let them know once you get into that field, you got to love healthcare. You got to love the medical devices, and then you won't feel like you're working.
Yes, great. Angie, your thoughts?
I know that I've been part of the HTM in a Box that Amy has been presenting. And basically, it's just that it's going and attracting and building that pipeline with the younger generation for HTM, educating on what it is, what we do, where we work, what are the options. We have different facets like Martine said, there's different facets to HTM. You find your niche or your what you want to do. I know that when I talk to high schoolers and they're excited about healthcare, but they don't really enjoy taking care of people. And I look at it, I tell them in this perspective, okay, you don't like working on people, but do you like to tinker? Do you like to fix things? Do you like to do things with your hands? Because if you do, in a way, when you're working on equipment, that's your patient. So in a healthcare environment, that's your patient. Your patient came in sick. It's not working. What are you going to do to make it feel better? A lot of people get the satisfaction of making somebody feel better or fixing something. And some of that, really, and it motivates people to want to continue to do it. Like Martine said, if you're in it for the money and you have no compassion or you're not interested in healthcare and what it means to be in healthcare, it probably is not the field for you. But I do try to motivate people and kind of put it into a perspective. Okay, you don't like working on people, but do you like working on equipment? You don't like working on equipment, you like painting. Well, we have painters and all those other kind of different things. So you don't like working on medical equipment. Do you like IT, networking? Networking is a huge deal now where a lot of medical equipment is integrated into IT and cybersecurity. So there's that new facet that HTM is getting into. So there's a lot of different niches, if you will, in HTM. You just have to find the one you are interested in most and pursue that.
Yes. Now, I'm going to share some stats with you, and I want to get your opinion on this. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in the HTM industry, there's only 9 to 10% females make up the HTM industry. It's only 9 to 10% of that is females. And I also read that 10% of HTM leaders are females also. So what do you think that says about females, in your opinion, Angie?
I would say I don't doubt that. Again, this is a male-dominated industry, but it is quickly growing to, I wouldn't say equal parts, but there's more females that are getting involved in HTM. And just as many females are getting into HTM, those females that have been in HTM are seeking out management opportunities. So they're moving up and making room for the future female generations to take their spots. So it doesn't surprise me that percentage is low, but it could also be high compared to what it has been in the past.
Yes, because if you factor that in, because the numbers kind of 10% of the HTM community is females. 10% of the HTM leaders is females. So even though it's a small number, females are progressing in the management division at a fast pace because it's only making up 10%, but at the same time, you have 10% leaders from females. Ladies, all I have to say is that I'm in awe of you. You guys are doing phenomenal work, and I'm sure you're going to continue to do phenomenal work. In closing, I would like to give each of you time, a minute or two, to share some closing remarks, if you will, for our listeners. I'll let you go first, Angie.
Thank you. And again, thank you for having me on this podcast. Just some closing remarks. I find what I do, I enjoy what I do. I find it very satisfying. I'm very proud of what I do. There's not a day that I, don't walk out of the hospital where I feel like, oh man, I could have done something better, because I always just lay it out there every day, give it my all. And then I go home and I just feel just satisfied and just overwhelmed with gratitude of the blessing that I have been given the opportunity to do what I do. So I know in ninth grade, my English teacher, said something and it kind of stuck with me. And, because he loved being an educator and he loved literature. And he said that if you are doing what you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. And I truly am seeing that and living that right now, because I truly enjoy what I do. And it just doesn't feel like work. It just feels like I go to work and I do something that's natural and I enjoy it. And it makes a difference. It really does. It makes a difference.
Martine, any closing words?
Oh, yes. I want to start off by saying my grandmom used to always tell me that you only have one name, you own it. It's up to you to do what you have to do with it. So I take pride in my name and knowing the things that I can do to be a service to the organization that I work for, to healthcare, to patients, my loved ones. I appreciate being recognized for the type of work that I do. I love what I do. And my goal is to bring more people in to HTM and to medical devices. I volunteer constantly, and I just want to grow this field and get people into it and love it and appreciate it and be successful in it. So I would like to thank you for inviting me to this podcast. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Angie and Martine, thank you for being a guest on HTM On The Line. Anytime you want to come back on and share some information with the industry, you both have an open invitation. I wish both of you much success in your future endeavors, and if I can assist you in any way, please feel free to call up on me. In conclusion, we learned from today's podcast that Angie and Martine are leaders of technicians ranging from BMed 1s all the way up to clinical managers and imaging engineers. They also have the respect of their respective teams and various professionals throughout the industry. Without their strong family support, none of the success they achieved could be possible. Before I end each podcast, I like to leave you with a quote. We keep moving forward, opening new doors, and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of HTM On The Line. The next episode of HTM On The Line will have a special guest from MD Publishing. This will be an episode you do not want to miss. Till next time, be safe out there.